Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. So I want to put a question to you. How many of you, especially if you grew up in a narcissistic family, felt like no one ever defended you? And if you're in a narcissistic relationship now, how often do you feel like that no one, not even your partner, comes to your defense, especially your partner doesn't come to your defense? Think about that. Drop it in the comments, because that's what this video is about. It's about this idea that people in narcissistic relationships rarely feel like this person, this narcissistic person who's an important person in your life, ever defends you from other people and uncomfortable situations or words that they're leveling against you. So let's take this apart. And if you're new to this channel, I'm Dr. Ramani. This is a YouTube channel on narcissism meant to help you navigate these rather difficult waters. So let me put it to you as a question again. How often have you felt that one of the hardest things about having lifelong narcissistic relationships, parents, family members, partners, coworkers, friends, but most pointedly parents, if that was your story, was that no one ever defended you, took your side, or had your back? If that's was your experience, drop that in the comments, because I think it's an important one. Something I observe consistently in survivors of narcissistic abuse is the lack of safety that they feel in the world, and really the sense that no one was going to protect you. Yes, by the time we get into adulthood, we are supposed to be able to protect ourselves, but that is really hard to do if it was never done for you. So let's think about this as a few scenarios. You are a child. You are a child, maybe at a family gathering or some other social gathering, and someone was mocking you, criticizing you, perhaps insulting you. Maybe it was your appearance or how you were doing in school or your interests. And instead of your narcissistic parent stepping up and saying, "Hey, step off, don't talk to my child like that," or even seeing that your parent took the person aside who was doing that, or got you out of that situation, instead, your parent either added to the piling on or just walked away and left you to have to endure the criticism. Or a situation where a sibling was bullying you and your narcissistic parent just left you to figure it out yourself. Fast forward to adulthood. You're in a narcissistic relationship. You're sitting with a group of people, and someone in that group is really behaving in a disrespectful manner to you, maybe insulting you. Instead of your partner, in a healthy way, talking to that person or even speaking to the person off to the side or just simply defending you, they either laugh at the disrespectful treatment you are enduring, or they join in, or they ignore it. And then when you ask them about it later, and I say, "Why didn't you stand up for me?" they give you some kind of anemic excuse, or they accuse you of being too sensitive. People in narcissistic relationships do not feel safe for a wide variety of reasons. But one of the major reasons that they do not feel safe is because nobody ever defended them. I don't mean dysregulated, egotistical defending, or someone like screaming at top volume, but appropriate stepping in and saying, whoa, not okay. Step back and please don't, what are you doing here? Don't be talking to my child, my friend, my partner, my colleague like that. Like, that's not okay. The narcissist is so concerned with appearances and getting their own validation and supply that they are rarely going to be willing to sacrifice any of that to defend someone else. Well, sometimes a narcissistic parent will be willing to get into a scrape to defend their child, but it is often for egoistic reasons that reflect the narcissistic person themselves being insulted, and with the child as an afterthought. Again, I am aware that as adults, we shouldn't need to turn to other people to defend us. That's not what this is about. Without this ever happening, since childhood being defended, without it ever being modeled, many of us had to learn to do this for ourselves at a young age. Again, results in the world feeling like an unsafe space. If we get it when we're children, we're better able to keep ourselves safe as adults. And when you're in a relationship, it doesn't feel good to have your partner just watching you sit there and really get harmed by other people. I remember so well something that happened in my own family system in which I defended a family member who had been narcissistically abused throughout his life and then was narcissistically abused by another family member. Now, it is not cool in a South Asian family for a woman to step in and talk back to an older man, but I did because that older man's behavior was unacceptable. I was struck by how shocked the person that I defended looked when I did it. And I recognized part of it was because nobody had ever done it for them, because he kept talking about it. Now, outdated and unearned cultural respect hierarchies often keep narcissistically abusive patterns in place. And maybe because of the work I do, something in me just couldn't stand by and watch it happen. Needless to say, the narcissistic person did not speak to me for a very, very long time. This is no big loss. But for a moment, I was grateful to make the world feel a little safer for someone who had endured that bad treatment throughout their lives, and at least for once had someone defend them. The devaluation of narcissistic abuse is not just about how the narcissistic person treats us directly. It is also very clear that they do not have our backs. Many people in marriages and long-term committed relationships with narcissistic partners will say, "My partner will defend anyone else as long as it isn't me," and will often say that their partner, more often than not, will choose sides against them. This kind of triangulated stance is a way for the narcissist to almost show off in front of other people. And you are a soft target if you are their partner. They're always going to let you take that fall. For us as children, we look to parents and caregivers for safety. We wanted them to have our backs and to defend us, or at a minimum to have protected us. For a child to see that the very people who are supposed to protect them do not step up, and in fact may be part of the group that is being unkind to them, sets a tone for life, to never quite feel safe in relationships. And that feeling unsafe can make a person more vulnerable to choosing unsafe partners. People who grow up in narcissistic families, especially the scapegoats and the truth tellers, will recall never having been defended, though observing the more valued siblings, typically the golden children and the brainwashed children, be defended. Those triangulated and that contrasting treatment can be uniquely unsettling and painful for children. In a strange way, narcissistic people have contempt for anyone who is close to them. It's mostly because the people close to them are viewed as disposable, sure things. The narcissistic folks often assume that they can treat those closest to them any way they want and assume that they will not leave. For narcissists, supply is a numbers game, and defending just you and potentially losing the supply of other people is not going to work for them. And on top of that, they have contempt for the person close to them anyhow, so why would they defend them, right? When you grow up in a family and watch the narcissistic parent not defend your other parent, perhaps in front of the in-laws or other family members, it can also set a tone for you in which you see marriage as something that is unsafe, inequitable, and not a true partnership. The in-law issue leaves many people feeling unsafe in their own relationships and marriages. And narcissistic ego is such that the narcissist will often side with their own parents against a partner. Now, in the workplace, this same theme can also arise. You may have a toxic boss or colleague, and when it is showtime, or perhaps you are meeting with, I don't know, someone else within your organization or with a client or someone in leadership, and let's say that person, that client or that person in leadership is coming at you, the toxic boss is always going to choose what works best for them, with little allegiance to even the most loyal colleagues and team members. For narcissistic folks, you are only a team when it works for them. Again, I have heard this theme come up repeatedly. The lack of safety and the grief that comes from a narcissistic family member or partner or even friend or colleague not defending you to others when it is warranted. It can feel like a psychological abandonment of sorts and make the relationship feel perpetually unsafe, which it actually is. Pay attention when that happens, because when folks are coming at you and they allegedly love you and they don't defend you, that's a choice. And if they're making that choice, it's a larger statement about how they regard your relationship and your place in it. There will come a time when it may not be that they're defending you against some nonsensical insult, but may have to advocate for you in a high-stakes situation, perhaps, for example, a healthcare issue or something. If this person will not defend you against, I don't know, some silly, insults you're even getting at a family gathering, do you really think that this person is going to go to the mattresses for you, go to bat for you when you really need an advocate? I'm thinking not. So this pattern is not only one that brings up grief, it's one that reminds you that when you really need this relationship, you really need this person to be there at your back, they probably won't be. Thanks again.